I'm John Bradley. I'm the Deputy Director of the Monash Indigenous Center at Monash University in Victoria, Melbourne, Australia, and I'm also the Director of the Monash Country Lines Archive, which is based within the Monash Indigenous Center.
I'm Brent McKee. I'm the Senior Animator for the Monash Country Lines Archive. I'm in charge of all of the visual content on the animations.
I'm Shannon Faulkhead. I'm the Finkel Fellow, which is the Senior Research Fellow for the Monash Country Lines Archive, and I pretty much do everything else.
I suppose if we put this in an academic sense, the most important part of the Monash Country Lines Archive is about decolonizing. Not just decolonizing Australia, because it's a very colonised country, but working with Indigenous people, also in some respects to decolonize themselves. So much of the things that we are working with are languages, Indigenous languages that were recorded 100 years ago by missionaries, by white settlers who didn't really respect culture, didn't know how to write the languages, but thought that by making word lists and grammars that would record a language before it died. So we really are in the process of taking a colonised document, which is just Indigenous languages written on a piece of paper where the sounds have lost, because we're dealing with an oral tradition, we're not dealing with a print tradition. So much of what we do is trying to revivify a language back to the sense of its oral form, of how it once used to be, how it once used to sound. And that's not so hard where you still have a few people speaking language every day. But when you're in the heavily colonised parts of Australia, the southern parts of Australia, that's a huge job to convince Indigenous people who haven't spoken their languages for 100 years to actually re-engage with an oral form of English, which is an oral form of language, which is so different from English.
One of the things that people seem to think with the Monash Country Lines Archive is that the animations themselves are the archive. They are but part of the archive. They're not the end product. Their purpose is an intergenerational learning tool, so it's the conversations that people have around the animation, the knowledge that families share with each other after they watch the animation, whilst they're watching the animation. They then take the story beyond what they're seeing on the screen, and as they start to learn the language, they also learn the names of places, because that's one of the beauty of the 3D animation that Brent creates, is that he's able to recreate country that existed in the stories that may not be there anymore. So he's able to clear farmlands and put trees back in on mountains. He's able to recreate rock formations. So then they can actually go out onto country and go see where that building is. That's where those rocks used to be. So they're learning the country from those animations.
They're a bridge.
Yeah, they are.
They're a bridge between the old and the young.
And the new.
And the new. Yeah, new.
Yeah.
And I guess for you as an animator, what's it like to see it go back into the families?
Oh, it's great.
Tell us a bit more.
It was quite moving, really, because, well, I go into the families and they tell us a story, and then I spend quite a long time deconstructing that story into its main parts. You have the stage, which is all of the landscape where the story takes place. Then there's the cast, all of the characters that are in the landscape that are interacting with each other, and then those two combined create the lesson. And so with all these things interweaving, I kind of just spend most of that time by myself. There's a bit of back and forward, but then I've